Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
Thanks for having me back on, Jim.
Ross, one of our listeners asked, is Ross Kay going to write a book about Canadian real estate? And if he did, what would it focus on?
This is, I've been asked this question several times over the last couple of weeks, Jim. And often the comment is, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book? There certainly are enough books out there right now that present the housing market in a totally fictitious way. But then the question to me always comes down to is, okay, this is sort of like the chicken and Colonel Sanders. There's a chicken, and then there's that secret recipe that the Colonel has. Now, the Colonel has this recipe, and even though YouTubers around the globe have tried to come up with a solution, supposedly a copy of the recipe was left in a book somewhere that some distant relative or newfound relative found in a book and shared with everyone. But I think, as everybody knows, there's only one place you can get KFC with the secret spices and herbs. I can tell everybody the very first job that I had, Jim, was official job that I had was working at a KFC. Ironically, the first job I had was in Milton, Ontario.
So what's the secret recipe, Ross?
They never told it, Jim. It came in bags. The bags were brown labeled at that time, meaning there was no label on them at all. You opened the bag up and you followed the methodology that they had for making their chicken. But you never knew what the recipe was. So someone would ask, when they asked, Ross, why won't you write a book and tell everybody? What I know is so simple. What I know is so fundamentally provable that if I was to write a book, I'm letting all of these secrets out.
Buy low, sell high? Is that the secret?
No. Well, the secret is understanding how the real estate Ponzi scheme works, understanding how the cooperative listing service, house price pyramid scheme was designed. Okay, because once you understand that, then you can look at the housing data and you know where sales are going to go over the next 3 to 4 months, 8 months, a year. You know where the prices are going to go every 3 to 4 months, 8 months to a year. These two paths don't diverge. From that information, you are also able to calculate mortgage originations data. Now, this is unfathomable, Jim. If I was to show everyone how we calculate mortgage originations data, in other words, the amount of money the Canadian banks are going to book in new mortgage debt in a month, people would say, wow, that's too easy. How come you can't be the only person that knows that? And I said, sure it is. We just happen to be the only people who've collected the data. As we showed in your show, we can tell people exactly today how many houses there are in every single town and city and neighborhood in this country. Well, how do you do that? It's not on the CMHC website. You can't get it from the land titles offices. CMHC is willing to pay $60 million right now for someone who has the answer. How come, Ross, you say that you have it? Well, because we have it. I'm sitting here looking at it right now. It's that simple. So why would I write a book about a housing market right now when those people who have been trusting what I've had to say for the last few years, and I guess an argument have been supporting my new business platforms? Why would I go out there and give everybody this information because when you give the information out, the value of the information no longer exists. The knowledge that you give out is immensely valuable, but you've lost control of the message. you've lost control of the metrics. I can only imagine, Jim, the damage that organized real estate would do if they took my information, the information that the way that we have it, the data that we have, the data sets that we use, the housing metrics that we use, and they use that to cover up the greatest financial fraud in Canadian history, that being the Cooperative Listing Service house price pyramid scheme, a simple system that was designed to allow real estate brokers to earn commission at a 4% house price growth rate. The 4%, folks, is relative as of today's date. The original design of the pyramid was to enable a 6% commission to be earned, but I can leave that discussion for another day. So you can't. I don't expect me to be writing a book in real estate right now, Jim. We're deciding whether or not we could enter the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's data round of their housing supply challenge. Okay, we are trying to figure out how we can answer some of their questions. In other words, deliver solutions for them with data that without losing control over that data. Now they're saying in their applications that you don't have to give up your copyrights, that you can maintain your data integrity. But with something as simple as what we do is gets out of the bag, I don't know how you ever really put it back in. It's gonna get out. I mean, it's this simple. We look at reports and studies and forecasts, Jim, and we just shake our head. What we see is sitting there in the materials that we read. It's just that no one else seems to be able to read it. I guess it's in a foreign language. I guess maybe, Jim, that's the answer to this question. Maybe the book I should be writing is how to read housing speak. Maybe that would be something that's fun. But I have nothing on the horizon where I'm even considering writing a book. I am constantly asked, why don't you write a book? I have been contacted by 2 publishers over the last year asking if I'd be interested in writing a book. I simply don't have any interest right now at giving away the secret recipe to KFC.
A university did a spectrograph of it. Apparently the prime ingredients are salt and pepper.
Yeah, I know that it's white pepper for sure. I know that you could smell it. I could still smell, Jim, that was, wow, man, that was like 50 years ago. More than that, maybe even, right? Mm.
So how to read housing speak. What are maybe the 3 most important things here? Well, we'll do an on-air pamphlet. Is, in housing speak, what should you, if you hear it, run for the hills? Yeah,
but I would say number 1, open your eyes, get out a calculator, and start punching some numbers in. Because I'll tell you, the only reason they get away with this, the only reason our nation, Jim, is in the problem that it's in because of this housing bubble, is because people listen and believe it. They don't fact check it. They simply don't fact check the gatekeepers of the information. If you fact checked it, if you had fact checked it in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, just fact checked what your local real estate broker just told you, what organized real estate told you, you would know that it's not true. You can't make 1 and 1 equal 3. But I suspect that's a topic for another day.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, last week you mentioned the Canadian Real Estate Association's house price forecast issued on December 15th of 2020 for the new year. It's now been a month and we're awaiting year-end 2020 totals, but you've had time to review their forecast. What's their forecast and what's your real forecast?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this basically goes back to the previous section, Jim. So the previous question. So if you're just tuning into the show now, please go back and listen to the previous question, because this question rolls right in. Look at, for 1 month, right? It's the 12th today, issued on the 15th, a month. Real estate brokers across Canada have access to the Canadian Real Estate Association house price forecast for 2021. Organized real estate trade associations across Canada have access to this forecast. Economists across Canada have access to this forecast. Academics, the guys who feel confident, so arrogant, in our opinion, that they feel comfortable, that they can discuss housing when they don't even know how house prices rise, have had access to this forecast in their hands, publicly available at zero cost for a month. Silence. Bank economists, all the big names, Tall, Porter, all those guys that you see on all the TV stations talking up their bank stocks. Not a single word. Then you look out there and you say, well, what about the Bank of Canada? What about CMHC? Silence. Not a word for a month. All those housing analysts, wannabe YouTubers, stars, the people who want to get Patreon commitments from people to comment about the housing market. Not a word about the CREA forecast. The folks, they have had a month to simply look at the forecast and come out and debunk the forecast for you. Folks, you can do it yourself today. The beautiful thing about a forecast from the Canadian Real Estate Association is that they give you the numbers from last year, 2020. They call it projected. They already know what the year-end numbers are going to be. They're just fudging them a little bit so that they can fudge numbers for next year. So they can go, all real estate is local. And then you have the confirmed numbers for 2019 that were included in that report. Okay? You can see it. It's sitting there, right there, for everyone to look at, the con that they're pulling off. It is the most asinine con that you can believe. I'm sitting here, Jim, as I'm talking to you on my computer screen with the CREA residential market forecast pulled up for this year. Now, ask, if you don't have access to it, call any housing analyst or your banker or your realtor and ask them for a copy. There's no distribution problems with this forecast. CREA has given them out for years. A lot of real estate brokers put them right on their websites for you to access, okay? You don't even have to do that. You can go to the CREA.ca site and you can check out their quarterly forecast. They're going to give you in that forecast the two charts that appear. Now get out your calculator. Look at the scam that they're trying to pull on you. They're trying to say that the average price is forecast to reach $620,000 in 404. They are forecasting a price change for 2021 of 9.1%. That is what they have forecast. If you look back to 2020, you can see that the average price they're expecting to be announced tomorrow or the next day or Friday to be $568,000. It's not going to be that, folks. It'll be a little bit different, but it'll be close enough. It's not worthwhile arguing. What they're effectively saying is this. They expect the average price to increase $50,000 between 2020 and 2021. Okay, that's what they say. But then what they show you is, here's how we're going to make this magic math work. Here is the scam that we have pulled on the Canadian public for 40 years. This is the scam that was used to book $1.7 trillion of mortgage debt in this country. This is the scam that caused me to leave organized real estate. This is the scam that Polaz and Wilkins watched happen during their entire term in power without a word. This is the scam that CMHC not only allowed to happen, but Emily, their automated house price appraisal evaluator, which they use to insure mortgage debt in Canada, is built to support this fraudulent measure. You notice I am using the words fraudulent, con, and scam. Okay, I'm not holding back here, folks. I'm not holding back because I would pray that Organized Real Estate would issue a defamation lawsuit against my firm. I would pray for that day. Because on that day, there's a little fact known as discovery. And with discovery, frauds and cons get to be exposed. What I have to say about the forecast is this, Jim. If you're listening to this show today, go get the forecast. Go to CREA.ca, check on their quarterly forecast. And I want you to look at 2019, 2020 projected, 2021 forecast. I want you to get out your calculator and figure out what's wrong with these calculations. I want you to get out your calculator and calculate how much house price inflation did Korea build into their forecast. How much house price inflation occurred between 2019 and 2020. This is not pretend. This house price inflation, this house price illusion is sitting there staring you in the face. The house price illusion that they're forecast to create in 2021 through the Cooperative Listing Service house price pyramid scheme is sitting there staring you in the face. A calculator lets you calculate precisely the amount of house price illusion that has been created by the Canadian Real Estate Association from 2019 through to what they have planned to be creating at the end of 2021. If you have access to the old reports, the reports from starting back in 2011, okay, so they issued these reports before the benchmark price was ever created. Okay, remember, folks, the benchmark price is a new myth, a new mythical feature of organized real estate. The mythical feature that measures the quality of a bathroom, the quality of a bedroom, the quality of the room sizes, the quality of the roof. It measures all this by simply measuring what type of bathroom the average home buyer is buying in a month. It's got nothing to do with what the average bathroom in Canada is. It's just what is the average bathroom that the average home buyer is buying this specific month. And how much illusion can we create from that? If you get this forecast, folks, get this forecast, look at the numbers, and then ask yourself, why have all of these people, we are talking hundreds of people, thousands, literally thousands, because CMHC staff, right? Thousands of university BAs, BScs, MBAs, PhDs have access to this information, this data, right in front of their eyes, and they can't figure out the con that's been gone on. Now, I ask myself, nobody who is looking at this information with any critical analysis, with any degree of education, in other words, if you have grade 5 and beyond math skills, would look at this and not see what the con is. It's sitting there staring in the eyes. So, are we to say it's worse than them letting this con go on? Is that they're actually themselves perpetuating the con? Because it's sitting there staring you in the face. Ross, well, why don't you tell us what it is? Well, that would be too easy, right? That would be too easy. To come on this show, Jim, and say to your listeners, oh, here's the answer. No. The way that we learn is that we go out and we find out what the truth is. One of my youth basketball players that I coach, hey, coach, how to take a 3? Well, I'll show you how to take a 3, but you got to go practice it. And you got to learn from your mistakes. This is a case in point right here with this 2021 forecast. I believe this forecast, Jim, should bring down organized real estate as we know it today. There is no need for 150,000 real estate agents across Canada. At most, we need 15,000. Okay? That means 125,000 real estate agents. I'm calculating 140. 125,000 real estate agents can disappear overnight, and the Canadian consumer will be better off for it. The agents that are left can make an exorbitant amount of money. They can charge half the commission that's being charged today, and those agents can be the wealthiest business people in Canada. There is no need for 140,000 agents to exist. There is no need. A top-ranking they're only forecasting next year 580,000 sales. Only 580,000, folks. Okay? A good real estate broker with a few assistants easily can handle 500 transactions in a year. We don't need the number of real estate agents. The only reason your commission rates are as high as they are is because Korea needs members. Members pay membership dues. Membership dues keep their staff working. Nothing more, nothing less. You're looking at a forecast here, folks, where the cooperative listing service house price pyramid is on full display. Now I'll leave it with this because we'll come back to this next week. If you look at the cooperative listing service house price pyramid scheme, you're looking at a level 7 scam share in this chart. This is the last level in the pyramid. Okay, it's almost a reverse pyramid. It's in many ways, because we're looking at 544,000 sales they're talking about supposedly in Canada for the end of 2020. Now remember, the 2019 numbers are still there, folks. You get to compare 2019 to 2020. And the best part is, when you jump to 2021, it's even more obvious. This is the last level of the pass-through of the share, how the share of sales shifts and causes house price illusion. I am looking at this chart, and what I see at a provincial level, we see at a regional level in each province. We see the CMA components of the region doing the exact same thing. We see the city-town level of the CMA doing the exact same thing. We see the categories of homes we see the neighborhoods, FSAs, in the towns and cities doing the exact same thing. We see the category of homes in a neighborhood do the exact same thing. We see the quality of homes of each category of homes doing the exact same thing. It's passed on up from the quality to the category, from the category to the FSA or neighborhood, from the FSA or neighborhood to the town or city, from the town or city to the CMA, from the CMA to the region, from the region to the province, and from the province to the national forecasted average price. The number used by the national system, our national accounts, to calculate the wealth of Canadians, to determine policy established against Canadian taxpayers, to establish budgets by every level of government, to establish transfers in every level of government, to establish municipal taxation, provincial taxation, federal taxation in our country. This is what's gone on. We're talking, folks, about a $6 trillion asset class, something 4 times the size of the Canadian stock market. You're looking at the con. It's staring you in the eyes. For those who see it, for those who take their time to listen today, go check out those charts, pull out a calculator, scratch their head. Believe me, Jim, they're going to be thinking, oh my God, how is this possible? How could it be this simple? Oh, well, if I want to increase the average price forecast for 2022, I can increase it another $60,000 using their methodology. Wait a second. Their methodology is the same methodology that is going to result in the national average price increasing 11% year over year in 2020. 2020 is gone, folks. All the house price illusion recorded in the average price that you can see in this chart is done. 2019's was done. 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, right back to the Great Recession, all of it. It's all there. It's all there. It all happened the exact same way. House price illusion is what allows real estate brokers to earn their commission. It's what allows, historically, only 1 in 3 listings ever sells for organized real estate to justify the real estate brokerage market. It's the reason why the best agents in the business, who over 30 years sell 99.9% of the thousands of listings that they take, are legally prevented from explaining to you the guy that last listed 10 homes only sold 1. His success rate was 10%. This con that you're reading in this chart is why the rules of the MLS systems in Canada all specifically state, as does the Realtor Code of Ethics, that you cannot criticize a fellow agent's business practices or her business practices. This forecast should go down in history as verification of the greatest financial fraud ever committed. Because what you're seeing in this chart, specifically, I like the 2019 to 2022 comparison. How did they create $118,000 of house price illusion in 24 months? You can see how much illusion was created in the first year, and you can see how they're attempting or planning on creating it in the second year. It's because they never measure the average house. They never have. They never will. It's why the best real estate agents in the business, if there's any that remain today, always knew it's the average purchase price. It's got nothing to do with house prices.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, Sean in Simcoe, Ontario, and can you tell our Western listeners where exactly is Simcoe?
Southern Ontario, Jim. Southern Ontario. For the sake of the argument, you'll just say the Greater Golden Horseshoe.
Sean asked, Mr. K's always saying houses are just as affordable today as they were when he first bought his first home. That was, 1812? He says, I think they were just as affordable as when his parents bought, but I'm looking at homes here in Simcoe, and I just can't see what he's claiming on affordability. Can he clarify that homes today are just as affordable as when he bought his first home probably about 40 years ago?
Yeah, sure I can. And I understand the confusion, okay? Cost is a function of revenues and expense, for the sake of the argument. If you run a business and you collect $100,000, but you spend $120,000 to earn that 100, you're in the red by $20,000. You've lost money, okay? You've lost money. If you invest in something and you spend $100,000 and there is a $120,000 expense, you've lost money. You've not only lost the $100,000, but you've also lost the extra $20,000 of the expense. When we hear these conversations about housing affordability, the reason the problem exists, and the only reason, I'm sorry to say, but it goes back to organized real estate and the level of incompetence that allows 140,000 real estate agents across Canada to have a real estate license when there was only 500,000, less than 500,000 existing homes that traded hands this year. That's the only way that this is possible, folks. The entire conversation that you have when you're buying a home never talks about the cost of ownership. Never. Okay, what they do is they tell you what your monthly mortgage payment is going to be. If you're lucky, they're going to include in that mortgage payment your taxes. If you're really lucky, they're going to ask you to input a small amount, a small share of your utility bill in the month. That's what they're going to put into that. They're going to put into that calculation. In other words, they're going to put such a small number of inputs into that calculation that if you submitted that to an accountant or Revenue Canada, they would be back doing an audit on what you've submitted, because clearly you've left a whole bunch out. When we say housing affordability, Jim, we're looking at a number. So right now, when you say, Ross, what does money cost today? You know, the irony, I guess, in this question is, this is a discussion that I had with my parents just last week. I had this discussion with my parents. So here is what I would say is, right now you can borrow money at 1.99% for 10 years. Okay? You can go online, Tangerine Bank or whatever, and you can see you can borrow money for not 2%. Just quit this 0.99 business. I'm not selling you something. You can borrow money for 2% for 10 years. What that means is, per $100,000, at the very start, you're paying $165 interest. They will lend you $100,000 for $165 a month. Now, because of the rules of the OSFI and the Government of Canada, they're going to also make you put some money into your own wealth fund, which they call principal. They're going to make you stick in $257 a month, your first payment, into your own wealth fund. That's not a bad deal, is it? If I'm paying myself $257 and I'm paying the bank $165, that's not a bad deal. That's really not a bad deal. I mean, I am borrowing $100,000 on a 25-year repayment schedule that is only $423 a month. $423 a month. Now, if I take $423 a month and I multiply that by 12, meaning 12 months, I'm going to make 12 payments, and I multiply that by 10 years, I've got a total of $50,760 per $100,000 borrowed. So what happens is that I'm able to borrow money right now that if I make these payments, $50,760, that on January the 1st, 2021, I'm going to owe basically $70,000 on. $70,000. Okay? So what that means is I'm going to get $30,000 back. Basically, I paid 19% interest to have $100,000 from a bank for 10 years. Think about it, folks. I can borrow $100,000 from the bank, and based on the first day I bought it, if I put away $19,000, that's all I have to pay the bank back over those 10 years. Any other money that I'm putting down is going into my own bank account called my house. This is why you look at cost and not expense. This is why all of those rent-to-own calculators or all those rent-to-own scenarios that have millions of views on YouTube are ludicrous, because they don't look at cost versus expense. Now, you have to understand with expenses, if you can minimize some of those expenses, that means that you have more money left over. In other words, the cost is way less than what it would be if you can't get rid of those expenses. The number one expense which we all should try to eliminate are taxes. Taxes are an expense. If you earn $100,000, the government's going to want $40,000. It's an expense. Okay? So from your $100,000, what if you're lucky, you're going to structure things and you're going to have $70,000 left, 30% tax. Right? You're going to have $70,000 left. Okay? So the government gets $30,000 of your earnings. Then you're going to have your house payment. Okay, well, you're going to have municipal taxes. So if you've got $4,000 a year in municipal taxes, that means the municipal government is going to take a 4% cut of your income. They're going to charge you 4% of your income. It's why we don't agree with how property taxes are structured in this country. Property taxes are designed to hurt impoverished poor. Property taxes are not designed to tax the wealthy. Those who have appreciation in housing wealth should pay higher property taxes, while those in lower incomes or in lower quality houses, quality is a function of price, should not pay those taxes. If I look at, punch the numbers in, Jim. So it's $165 that I'm paying. I'm going to pay right now $19,000 in interest over 10 years, less than on average $2,000 a year to borrow $100,000. When the housing market crashed in the 1990s, it was a result of a tiny increase in mortgage rates that happened in 1989. Central bankers thought that you could raise interest rates without causing the housing market to crash. Back then, they actually believed that. Back then, think about this, folks. This is 1990, 30 years ago. You paid $1,035 a month to borrow $100,000. You pay in your very first mortgage payment for a $100,000 loan, which today you pay $165 to the bank in interest. You now get, back then, you had to give the bank $1,035. You only put $49 in your own pocket, your house, the house that is a bank. Take that in comparison to what I said in the earlier segment here on when interest rates are only 1.99%. And we don't even want to, I'm looking at a 5% rate here when I'm calculating the number for 1990 because no one would take a 10-year rate back then. Okay? The truth of the matter is, folks, back then, the banks would lend you longer-term mortgages at a lower rate than what the variable rate mortgages or lower-term mortgages, shorter-term mortgages were. It was just a reverse of what we have seen here since when interest rates dropped below 8%. Okay, because that's the magic of mortgage interest math. The banks play the game because they know how the game needs to be played. Now, can you imagine way back then, 1990, for a simple $100,000 mortgage, you paid your banker $1,035. This year, 30 years later, with all the years of inflation that have gone on past, devaluing the Canadian dollar in comparison to what you could get for 1990, you're only paying the bank $165. You're paying the bank in real terms about 7% of what you used to have to pay them in interest. When I look at when my parents bought their first house, when they bought their first house, I think they told me, Mom said it was somewhere around 8% interest. Okay? Now, back then, you got your money from someone else who lived in your town, some wealthy old lady or some wealthy old man or some farmer, which is where my parents borrowed their money from. They were paying $655 per 100,000 in interest. $655. Way back in the 1950s. The reference I gave you before, the first one, the one with 1,035, that was the interest rate when I acquired my first home. Today it's $165. What is everybody complaining about? What you're complaining about is that people, the groupthink, that is, house prices are too high. Look, house price illusion is real. The prices that you're being asked to pay in major Canadian centers, specifically Vancouver, Toronto, Greater Toronto, Hamilton, which is now into the suburbs because of late trading cycle sales chain. Greater Vancouver, Greater Montreal, Greater Ottawa are too high. If you look in Calgary, you can see exactly what a home can be built for by a major Canadian builder. Mattamy Homes is building in Calgary. You can go in there and calculate how much per square foot Mattamy Homes is charging to build a house in Calgary. If they're charging that in Calgary, they only need to charge that in Toronto. They only need to charge that in Vancouver. The only additional charge they need to do is the land cost, and that's where the problem is. House price illusion always resides in the land cost. And that's why all that house price illusion is corrected when the housing bubble pops. Because if I can build a house for $210 a square foot today, I can still build a house for $210 a square foot 2 years from now. I probably could have built it 3 years ago for the exact same price. It really doesn't change. You can check the StatsCan new housing price index where they measure materials. Okay, go ahead and measure that. You can see the change is very minimal. In Simcoe, it is cheaper. The cost of owning a house is far less than what it was in 1990. It is far less. Yes, it's true. You have a forced savings plan that is going to make you wealthier than was ever possible in the history of home ownership. I hope you listeners understand. I am the most realistic person speaking about how house price illusion works and why you need to time a housing market. But at the same time, I'm probably one of the biggest proponents of home ownership as the best wealth building strategy any Canadian family can follow. That doesn't mean I'm telling you to go out and buy a house today. What it means is that you have to understand how the numbers work. You have to understand what reality is. if you're going to be able to step back and make a decision that's best for your family. You don't need to listen to my running on here each week. You need to step back and see what's best for you. If I'm putting $265 a month in my pocket, in my bank account, per $100,000 borrowed, I'm smiling like crazy, because I remember when I was only putting $45 in someone's pocket. And if you want to get some real context on this issue, let's look at the 22% mortgage. Let's look at 1982, when Canadian families around this country were losing homes that they had purchased in the 2 years prior. Families that had purchased homes in the previous 2 years were now walking away from their homes, turning their keys in, and accepting the reality that the Canadian banks in most provinces were going to be able to sue them for any shortfall. The bank was going to destroy their lives, but they still turned into the keys. In 1982, if you had to take a 22% mortgage or face losing your home, you paid a staggering $1,764 per $100,000 per month. Of all of that money, all of it, the bank got $1,754. You didn't even put $10 in your pocket. You were paying $1,764, and you didn't even put $10 in your pocket. When you understand the difference between expense and cost, all housing market realities are opened up to you. Solutions for housing affordability appear right in front of you. How you house the homeless, the solution for housing the homeless appears in front of you. And if you look at the chart that we talked about in the previous segment, where Korea forecasts the average price is going to increase $50,000 in the next year, and you look at the charts, and you see how that magic math works at the provincial level. Remember, it works at the regional level. It works at the CMA level. It works at the city-town level, participation in the CMA's numbers. It works at the FSA or neighborhood level. It works in the category of homes level. It works in the quality of the category of home. When you understand this is the reality that we're living in, when I think about the question posed in the first segment, Jim, why wouldn't I write a book? I'm sitting here on a $6 trillion asset class, an asset class that can see $2 trillion wiped out simply by removing house price illusion. That's the reality that we're talking about. And in Simcoe, you need to look at what this house is going to cost you. It's a complicated but simple calculation that can be done for any house in Canada. You have to consider what the house price forecast over the next 25 years is going to be for that specific home. And you can actually see that a cost of a house in Canada, starting in this year, even after a massive house price correction, still can leave you 25 years from now with that house costing you nothing. Affordability is not determined by how much you pay a month. Affordability is determined by how much money you have left in your bank at the end of 25 years.
Ross, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from thewealthyhomeowner.ca. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HouseStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HouseStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.